The rain came down like punishment that night. David, a former Marine, stood under a broken street lamp, clutching a damp cardboard sign that read, "Need shelter for my girls." His two daughters, Lily, 8, and Emma, 5, huddled close beneath his worn-out jacket. The motel had kicked them out that morning, his last few dollars were gone, and the world suddenly felt colder than any battlefield he'd ever faced. A sleek black car slowed to a stop nearby. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a woman in her mid-30s, sharp suit, calm eyes. "You okay?" she asked softly. David hesitated. Pride burned in his chest. "We'll manage," he muttered, though his trembling hands said otherwise. Her eyes flicked to the little girls, their shoes soaked through. Something in her expression shifted, the look of a mother who couldn't just drive away. "Get in," she said finally. He froze. "Ma'am, I can't." "I insist," she interrupted. "You're not sleeping out here." Inside the warm car, Lily's eyes widened at the sight of the woman's two daughters in the back seat, smiling shyly. The CEO introduced herself as Clara Reynolds. No press, no cameras, just compassion. For the first time in months, David exhaled. He didn't know this woman, but something told him this was more than a ride, it was the beginning of a miracle. David woke to the faint smell of coffee and the distant giggles of children. For a moment, he thought it was a dream, that he'd imagined the warm bed, the clean sheets, the roof that didn't leak. But when he opened his eyes, he saw sunlight pouring into a guest room too perfect to be real. His daughters were curled up beside him, their faces peaceful for the first time in weeks. Then, a gentle knock. Clara stood at the door, holding a tray of breakfast. "Good morning, Marine," she said with a kind smile. He sat up awkwardly. "Ma'am, we don't want to intrude." Clara waved a hand. "Please. You're not intruding. My girls insisted you stay. They've already adopted yours as sisters." Downstairs, the kitchen buzzed with laughter. Lily and Emma played with Clara's daughters, their tiny voices echoing through the marble hall. David felt something he hadn't in years, peace. Over coffee, Clara listened quietly as he explained how he lost everything, a small business that failed after he returned from service, debts piling up, pride keeping him from asking for help. "You served your country," she said softly. "Now, let someone serve you." He looked at her, this woman who had every reason to ignore him but chose not to. "Why?" he asked finally. Clara glanced at her daughters. "Because kindness is what I want them to inherit. Not money. Not power. Humanity." For the first time in a long while, David smiled, and truly meant it. He didn't know it yet, but this was the start of a second chance. 2 weeks later, David stood outside the glass doors of Reynolds Enterprises. The skyscraper loomed above him, sleek, modern, intimidating. He'd been helping around Clara's mansion, fixing things, mowing the lawn, doing handyman work to repay her kindness. But that morning, Clara surprised him with a clean shirt, a tie, and a quiet request. "Come to the office with me." Inside, her staff whispered. A tall man with military posture walking beside their CEO wasn't something they saw every day. Clara led him to a small meeting room and introduced him to her operations team. "This is David Hayes," she said confidently. "He used to lead a logistics unit in the Marines. I think we could use someone who knows how to rebuild under pressure." David froze. "Ma'am, I'm not qualified for." Clara smiled. "You led soldiers through chaos, right? My company's supply chain is chaos. You'll fit right in." The team laughed lightly, but something about her tone silenced doubts. Within days, David's discipline and quiet determination began turning things around. He fixed errors others overlooked, organized shipments with military precision, and earned respect faster than anyone expected. By the end of the week, one of Clara's senior managers pulled her aside. "Where did you find him?" Clara glanced through the glass wall, David helping a young intern troubleshoot a problem, and smiled. "I didn't find him," she said softly. "He found us." That evening, as David walked out, he saw Clara's daughters waving from the lobby. For the first time in years, he felt like he belonged somewhere again. But fate wasn't done testing him yet, and soon, his past would come knocking at the very doors he just learned to open. David was reviewing a shipment schedule late one evening when the security desk called up. "Sir, there's someone asking for you. Says he's from Falcon Credit Recovery." His heart sank. Those words, his old debt collectors. The ones who had hounded him for months before he lost everything. He took the elevator down, palms sweating. A man in a gray suit stood waiting, holding a folder. "Mr. Hayes. You thought disappearing would erase your dues?" "I didn't disappear," David said calmly. "I was just trying to survive." The man smirked. "You owe $42,000. We found your new employer. If you can't pay, we'll garnish your wages." Just then, Clara stepped out of the elevator. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her tone cool but commanding. David opened his mouth to speak, but the man was quicker. "Your employee here owes a significant amount of money. You might want to reconsider hiring him." Clara folded her arms. "I don't make business decisions based on a person's past. Only their integrity." The man blinked. "Ma'am, with all due respect." "No," she said sharply. "With all due respect, he's rebuilding. And if your company can't respect that, maybe you should reconsider your ethics." The collector muttered something and left. David stood frozen, torn between humiliation and gratitude. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he whispered. Clara smiled softly. "You served this country, David. Now, let someone fight for you." That night, as he watched his daughters sleep safely under Clara's roof, he realized something profound. Real strength wasn't about fighting alone. It was about allowing others to stand beside you. Weeks passed, and life began to feel almost normal again. David's girls laughed freely, Clara's daughters called him Uncle David, and even the office felt like family. But one crisp autumn morning, everything shifted. A sudden system failure brought Reynolds Enterprises to a halt. Orders were stuck, shipments delayed, millions were at stake. Clara's board panicked, her investors demanded answers. David watched her standing before the conference table, shoulders tense but eyes steady. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. "Ma'am, permission to take command," he said with a faint grin. Clara blinked, then nodded. Within hours, David had turned chaos into order. He called in favors from former Marine contacts, rerouted deliveries, and personally led the night crew. By sunrise, the company was back online. The boardroom that once doubted him now stood in awe. When the dust settled, Clara approached him quietly. "You saved the company," she said. David shook his head. "No, ma'am. You saved me. I just returned the favor." She smiled, eyes glistening. "Then maybe we're even." That weekend, Clara hosted a small dinner at her home. The four girls sat together, laughing as if they'd always been one family. Clara raised her glass. "To second chances, and to those who remind us that kindness is never wasted." David looked around the table, at the woman who'd stopped her car that rainy night, at the daughters who now had hope again, and felt something warm fill his chest. Home wasn't a place, he realized. It was people who refused to give up on you.